Coming up on the end of the show, I have just a little bit of good news. Well, it's actually good news for Dr. Paul. A story about Representative Ron Paul seems to indicate that maybe putting your money where your mouth is works if you're correct in your thinking. And there's a story about ever since the economic crisis, Paul's been particularly vocal on the debts and the deficit. He consistently slams the Federal Reserve for overinflating treasuries and feeding Washington's appetite for a fiscal policy that he believes has gapped the abyss future generations will have to pay us out of. He has stated that inflation is just a form of government theft in that it steals people's purchasing power and destroys savings. He notes that the value of the dollar has declined 98% since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and that the Federal Reserve has a terrible track record of getting things right. So Paul consistently reminds you, as this radio show does, that you cannot trust the government to run things right, nor to manage the money supply, because no government can, despite the claims of government economists and other self-appointed experts. So apparently Representative Paul has put his money where his mouth is, though, is gold. According to the stocks and funds Paul owned back in 2010, his dollar-rated return today is 7.11%, which makes his portfolio outperforming the S&P 500 by over 9% today. So it is interesting to note that he puts his money where his mouth is, and unfortunately he is a threat to the establishment in Washington, which is precisely why they work so hard and continue to do so, to label him an extremist or a kook or anyone else that dares listen to what he says. But the good news is that momentum is building in the libertarian circles, and especially among the younger generation that is growing up amidst more and more government intervention in their daily lives. So thankfully we're starting to turn things around so we don't leave a huge burden on the future generations of this country. But as I talked about a little bit ago, you have to continue fighting, you have to continue pushing, because government is just always sitting there waiting to pull more of your rights, pull more of your freedom away from you, and the more they do that, the more trouble we get into. So we've come up on the last of the show. Again, I would like to thank everyone for listening and making this show such a success each week. If you'd like more information, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. Be sure to hit that like button. And also you can follow us on Twitter at Patrick Riggins. Join me next Sunday afternoon, where once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins. We will see you next Sunday afternoon. Have a great week.